Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome back to a new video. So this video is basically what everybody wants to know. How much did the car make and how much did it all cost? I went stage 3. I've been stage 1 plus for the past, I don't know, 3.5 years, 4 years or so. And then I just recently went stage 3. So for those who don't know, stage 3 plus, if you want to get technical, is a tune, a downpipe, an intake, and all the supporting fuel mods. So it was a large goal of mine to finally go stage 3 plus. I really wanted to get all the supporting mods and really just kind of do a full bolt on, even though I'm not full bolt on, but almost there. I really wanted to go that route with all my Subarus that I've ever had. I never had the time. I never had the finances to be able to do it. And plus, I just never really kept the car long enough. I've had this car for over 4 years now, which is the longest car I've ever owned. So that is saying a lot. But it was time for me to experience something more than stage 1 plus. Now, a quick explanation on the VA chassis, which is a 2015 plus. You can't do, or it's recommended not to do stage 2 plus. And what that means is a downpipe and an intake. And the reason for that is because the EJ in the VA chassis, it's tuned a little bit differently than previous generations. So the GR and below, you can run a downpipe and an intake with the tune and everything and be pretty much fine. Your injectors are fine. But on the VA chassis, for whatever reason, they tuned it a little bit different and the injectors are pretty much maxed out at stage 1 plus. Now you can go ahead and do stage 2 plus if you really wanted to, but not many tuners will do it on this chassis. Mainly because of that reason alone. You're gonna run out of fuel, you're not gonna be able to get the power down, and it's gonna cause the car to go lean, which is not a good thing. So basically, if you have a downpipe and you wanna go to the next step, you'll have to go to stage 3, or at least it's recommended. So doing all the fuel mod, those are highly recommended just so it gets enough fuel fast enough to the motor so it's able to keep up. Stock injectors are like 300 or something really, really low like that. So you're really not able to get that much out of the stock injectors. Now, first, let me preface this entire video by saying I wasn't going for numbers. I am not a horsepower seeker. I don't look for that stuff. I'm not looking for the fastest STI in the world to set records or anything like that, nor am I looking to push this motor by any means. I'm a seasoned EJ owner, if you want to call it that. So I know what these things are capable of, and I know if you push them, they don't like it and things can happen. Obviously anything can happen, even stock motors, there's been issues with that. But if you're going to modify to the extent that I did, just know that it could happen no matter what. I'm fully aware of that. My main priority was reliability. RT Tuning did all the work for me. They installed all the parts. They also did the Dyno tune for me, obviously. And my main goal was, I don't want to push this motor. I'm not looking for numbers. I want reliability. So I'm not looking to push 40 PSI and go nuts with this motor. 2017 under, it is recommended that you stay under 350 horsepower, just because anything over that, you're kind of teetering on the edge of danger. 2019 plus, which has the type RA EJ in it. There's cars out there running 450 on stock internals with no problem. If I had a type RA or 2019 plus, I'd probably shoot for that, 400-ish horsepower. I didn't go E85 simply because in my area, the closest E85 station is over an hour away. Now, obviously you can get the jugs and everything and fill them up, but me being a dad of 3 kids, having a full-time job, and just my spare time is really not that free lately. I just don't have the time to drive the hour, fill up on E85, fill up the jugs and drive back. Sure, it'd be fun. Sure, I'd probably have a great time and I would absolutely love it. It just doesn't make sense. Honestly, E85, you get really bad gas mileage. You probably get 150 to 170 miles per tank. So just driving there and back, I pretty much ripped through almost an entire fuel tank, which doesn't make any sense. So maybe down the road, if an E85 station pops up closer to me, it is something that I may look into, but I really, it just doesn't make sense for my application and where I live and everything to go E85. All right, so let's go over all the parts that are on the car. First, I'm gonna go over what RT Tuning installed, and then I'm gonna go over what was already on the car to begin with. So first and foremost, what RT Tuning put on the car for stage 3 was a Grimspeed limited edition catted downpipe, turbo heat shield from Grimspeed, which is not a performance mod, but they put that on. They put on the Grimspeed electronic boost control solenoid. I did all the Cobb fueling, so Cobb fuel pressure regulator, Cobb fuel line kit, also the Cobb fuel rails right there, Cobb 1050X injectors, which you can see right there. Also part of the fuel kit is the AEM 340 fuel pump, which is back there, which you can't see. Last but not least is the Killer Bee equal length Holy headers. These are coated in Swain Tech from Killer Bee. Also for gauges, I'm running Revel VLS wideband gauge over here, and then the oil pressure over there. I'm also running the Subi Speed cubby pod to hold the gauges in the little cubby right here. So now let's go over the parts that were already on the car prior to going stage 3. So like I said, I was running stage 1 plus from Bren Tuning for a while. So these parts were already on the car. First and foremost is the Cobb access port. The catback exhaust that I am running is from Delta Motorworks. This is their track version catback. So it has no resonators, no muffler. Also, I was running the Grimspeed top mount intercooler with the ceramic coating. Over here is a TurboSmart compact bypass valve. And this beautiful intake right here is the Cobb Redline SF carbon fiber intake. So I'm just going to go over the cost of what RT Tuning did to get to stage 3, but I'm also going to add the total cost of all the other parts that I had on the car prior, just so you can get an idea of how much I spent to get to stage 3 and where the car is currently in regards to performance modifications. So let's go over the invoice or everything that they did. Over here is the parts, over here is the labor. So let's start off at the top, kind of just read through it quickly. Cobb fuel kit, which includes the fuel pump and all the lines and everything, the injectors, as well as the fuel rails, bunch of different gaskets and everything, the Killer Bee equal length headers, the cubby pod that I mentioned that is holding my gauges, both gauges by Revel VLS, and a bunch of other fittings and wires and stuff that they needed to install the gauges and everything else. Over here is the labor. Everything is written out exactly what they did, but they installed the catted downpipe, the turbo heat shield, Grimspeed boost control solenoid. They installed the Cobb fuel rails, lines, and the injectors. Then we went down, they installed the fuel pressure regulator, the AEM fuel pump. They installed the Killer Bee headers, the cubby pod, both gauges, and doing all the wiring and everything. Then on the second page here, this is all related to the dyno tune. So they did a smoke test of the intake system, doing a few things, a few checks and stuff that they do prior to dyno tuning. And then obviously the dyno tune. They were also gracious enough to do a customer appreciation discount, which is just a couple of bucks off of labor, which I greatly appreciated because everything counts. So here's the grand total for everything from RT Tuning that they installed. Labor was $2,510. Parts were $4,046.52. Sublet was $141.80. Hazmat stuff, discount that they gave me was minus $110. So a subtotal is $6,500 plus tax. We're looking at $6,979.89. Now, these are the parts that I already had that I didn't buy from RT Tuning, but I had them installed. So the first thing is the Grimspeed limited catted downpipe. That is $795. I also got the Grimspeed turbo heat shield with the gold foil on the inside. That is $149. The Grimspeed electronic boost control solenoid. That is $115. So now let's do a rough cost of all the parts that are already installed on the car as well and add it to that. Grimspeed top mount intercooler, $889 with a thermal coating. The TurboSmart compact bypass valve, $166. Cobb Redline SF carbon fiber intake, $675. I didn't mention these two things. Those are not really performance oriented, but I highly suggest doing them, and I have them done for reliability, so I'm going to mention them. The IAG V3 Street Series AOS, $419. You can't see it, but down there is the Getadom Cylinder 4 cooling mod. That is $80. Access port from Cobb is $675. The Delta Motorworks non-resonated catback is $1,440. All those parts that I just named that were already on the car, that came to a grand total of $5,378. So if we add those two together of RT Tuning's total, which is $6,979.89, plus the $5,378, we have a grand total of, oh God, $12,357.89.
Ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never understand.
So ouch, I know, a lot of money. But if you want to go with quality parts and you want to get things installed by a very reputable shop, that is what it's going to cost around. Yes, I know, I understand you can go with different parts, you can go with a different shop, but for me, I felt comfortable with RT Tuning. I felt comfortable with the parts that I used. I wanted to use very reputable parts, and I felt more comfortable having them install everything and do all the dyno and all that there. So yes, you can do it cheaper. You can save about what, $2,500 on labor. Plus if you use different parts like an NVIDIA catted downpipe or something like that, things are going to vary differently. But that is roughly what it costs to get an STI to this point. Yes, there's a lot of money, but you know what? 100% worth it. Absolutely love this car. I'm telling you, it is a completely different animal. This is how an STI should feel from the factory, and it's just a pleasure to drive. So let's go over the dyno graph. Let's talk about what I ended up with, why I went with the numbers that I wanted to go with. All right, here we go. So this is the dyno graph. So a lot of people guessed, a lot of people were right, a lot of people were wrong, but this is what I ended up with. So on Sport Sharp, 18 PSI and 93 octane, 351 torque, 339 horsepower. And then just on Sport, I'm at 316 and 322. Again, that is on 93 pump. If I went E, yes, you can go way more. But like I said, my main priority was reliability. I didn't care what the numbers were. I just wanted them to tune the car to be a nice, safe, reliable, fun daily driver. I didn't want to go above and beyond. We all know that going over 350 horsepower on this car is just, you're asking for trouble. And I felt that the 339 was more than applicable, and I felt comfortable with that. So for me, I'm just gonna round up to 340 because it makes me happier. It's a nice even number. And then 351, we can say 352 because it's pretty much there. So far, I really have not driven in Sport at all, just because I got a little taste of this, and it's kind of hard to go to that. But, you know, I'm just cruising around or anything like that. The car starts up in Sport mode, so that's what it's defaulted to. Sport Sharp is where I drive 99% of the time. Granted, I'm not on it every single second. I just like having the power there when I want it. Dyno graph, as you can see, it's very, very, very linear. On Sport Sharp, it kind of dies off on the end up here, but in Sport, it's a little bit more linear, a little bit more even, and it's really nice. The car feels super responsive. It feels a lot smoother with the equal length headers. Unequal, it felt a little jarring, a little, I don't know, something about it. The throttle response didn't feel as nice. With equal length, the motor seems so rev happy. When you just tap the throttle, you can just see how much happier the car is and how much faster it revs up. It's a really, really nice linear feel on this car, which is great. And the nice part about it is the turbo starts kicking in around 3,300 RPMs, which is really, really nice. I wanted some low end drivability because with this car, you really, really have to rev it out in order to have fun. The turbo really doesn't start kicking in on the stock map until around 4,500 RPMs. So something that spooled up a little bit sooner is perfect for the street, because I really don't like winding the car out to really feel how, you know, what the car is meant to do. I want something a little bit sooner so I can use the power around town, around the street. It's just a lot more fun that way. The WRX on the FA motor is just like that. It's, you know, the power comes on a lot sooner, so it's a lot of fun to drive. So that is kind of what I was after with the STI. I really didn't want to go crazy with the numbers. I understand that, you know, if you go past the 350 point, you're really pushing it. And keep in mind, that's only on 18 PSI. The tuner really didn't have to push the car and go 20 plus. Because with my Brent tune prior, I was at 20 PSI on stage 1 plus. So it was pushing more boost, but less power. Now I'm pushing less boost with way more power. So the car is kind of, I don't want to say overbuilt, but I put on parts that it was more than capable to do 400. But I didn't want to go that route. I kind of wanted to, you know, get all the parts on there to be able to do it and then kind of dial it back. I always said that if I built this motor for this car, I would build it for 650 and then tune it down to like 450, 500. Just stay way under its limits and have fun and not have to worry about it. I do get the want to go more because for me, you know, just getting that taste of more power, you know, I get it. It makes me want to go more power as well. But I've only been driving this for a few days now and just getting used to the new power, and the car feels crazy fast. At least for me, I'm so used to the stage 1 power that stage 3 plus for me is a big jump, and it is plenty for the street. It feels fantastic. Up in the higher RPM range, it's just, it flies. It feels awesome. I understand this is not the fastest car in the world. I'm not claiming it is. I'm not claiming that I'm going to go break records with this thing. But for the street and for the daily driver and what I wanted to build this car for, it is absolutely perfect. That is the numbers. That's what it cost. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, you don't get a lot of power for everything that you put on, but honestly, that's all I wanted for this car. And I'm super, super happy with it. Huge shout out to RT Tuning. Thank you for everything. Thank you for installing everything. Thank you for being professional. And thank you for listening to my needs, you know, not pushing the car and just getting me exactly what I wanted. I love the sound of it with the equal length headers. It sounds like an absolute animal, especially when you're on it. Oh my gosh, going through a tunnel with this thing at wide open throttle is nuts. Yes, there is room for more, going E85, doing external wake gate and all that stuff, and obviously building the motor. But for now, I'm very content. I don't plan on going to that route. Maybe down the line if I end up keeping this car longer, but for now, I am so content with the power and everything on this car. So in terms of performance, that is where we are. Yes, there is going to be an exhaust video. I'm doing an exhaust video comparing the unequal length headers with the current setup right now, so you guys can see back to back. So there's going to be plenty of video clips of ripping by, doing revs and all that stuff, startups. I'm halfway through the video. I just got to go out and get some clips with the new setup now, but I promise you that's coming out. So don't yell at me for, hey, I want to hear it. I promise you that video is coming. I just don't want to throw something out there. I want to make sure the video is very educational and you know, I have everything that I want to get in that video. So be patient. I promise you that one is coming out. So there it is. 340 horsepower, 352 foot-pounds of torque on the Sport Plus at 18 PSI. I'm really looking forward to making all the content that I want to make with the Stage 3 and all the new power and everything. So be on the lookout. I promise you there's a ton coming. If you have any questions, be sure to ask them below. But in the meantime, keep it clean, keep it simple. I'll catch you guys on the next one.